Hey, what's up? It's Mr. Dean, and back in 2019, I did a video over Wii Sports, and admittedly, at the time, my puberty-ridden self did a pretty bad job at it. I mean, granted, a video very similar to this has been made to death on the internet, but I decided why not go and take another stab at it. Anyway, yeah, no useless intro, let's just go knee-deep into this little tech demo delight we got going on here. November 19th, 2006, the day when world peace was achieved thanks to this sexy little thing of a console. The Nintendo Wii. Yeah, people can hate on this all they want, but I just have way too much nostalgia with this system. I feel like by this point everybody and their mother has intermingled with one of these, but just in case for the non-virgins watching, I'll elaborate a little bit. The premise here is that instead of a traditional gaming controller like say the Xbox 360 or the PlayStation 3 at the time, Nintendo opted to get creative and design something that can only be described as questionable. The Wii Remote to this day perplexes me because when it works, it really works, and when it doesn't work, it really doesn't work. Basically, this uses motion controls in a variety of ways in order to shake up gameplay, and Wii Sports was released alongside the console as a tech demo to show off what the motion capabilities of the Wii Remote were. While we are talking about the Wii Remote though, let me go ahead and give my professional review of it. I think whether I think of this controller positively or negatively depends on the context of it being used. Some games like New Super Mario Bros. Wii for example have you holding it sideways, and to me this was the controller at its weakest. While it works, it just doesn't offer the same kind of support for your hands as a typical controller would. However, when holding it straight forward, I think that this is unironically a pretty good controller. Now when it comes to motion controls though, the technology was definitely ahead of its time. That doesn't mean that it was always good though. We aren't here to talk about it being bad though, we are here to specifically talk about Wii Sports. And with my Wii Remote review, let's get into Wii Sports itself and see how well it did at selling the concept of the Wii. So right away, let me address something. This game has one of the greatest soundtracks of all time, and I don't care what anybody says. Not even the songs, but just the overall sound direction in every single sport in here is done to perfection, and I'm just saying this here so I don't have to repeat myself 30 times in the video. Anyway, we boot up the game and it gets us straight to the point in the main menu. We have 5 different sports to choose from: tennis, baseball, bowling, golf, and boxing, as well as a variety of minigames and the fitness test. Honestly, for a tech demo that came with the console, Nintendo didn't even really need to do all that. For the purpose of showing off the hardware, I feel like just putting in the 5 sports would have done the job, but the extra content really goes above and beyond. Also, before we get into the sports, let's also address who we play as. Obviously nowadays, we all know it is the Miis, since they are iconic, but yeah, this game also serves to introduce the concept of Miis. Essentially, you can go to the Mii channel on your Wii and make your own little versions of yourself, or if you are me, you can make a shitty version of Abraham Lincoln for a Mii. This was just such an adorable feature that just became a big thing that future Nintendo systems would also inherit in the future. Anyway, sport number 1, we got tennis, and yeah, this is just as fire as I remember it. First off, I will say I find it somewhat strange that you can have both your players as the same Mii. How the does that work? Also, if you want, you can just have all 4 characters as the same Mii and just spam your Wii mode and let anarchy happen, which I remember playing around with that as a kid. It is honestly really impressive how much nuance there is to the gameplay here. When serving, you can time it up to do a power serve. The angle you swing your Wii mode at correlates to the angle your Mii hits the ball. I love how the Miis move on their own, and honestly the Miis never moved in any stupid ways that made it so the opponent scored on me, so I think that it was a really well implemented feature. Also, whenever you swing, you control both of your Miis, which helps to simplify the way the game controls. Another thing is I love how there is a crowd of Miis just politely watching the game happen, and whenever you level up, more and more people will be in attendance. Speaking of leveling up, in each sport you gain or lose points based on how you did, and when you reach 1000 you become a pro. This system was a little stupid at times, since I would be at 600 points and play pros with almost triple my total, which I think the fact that I totally demolished them should probably raise some eyebrows in the Wii Sports Tennis Association, I don't know. In all seriousness, I also f***ing love the announcer in these sports.
Good birdie! Nice on! Fight! 15-30. Deuce! The front team wins! Nice throw! Ball!
There is just so much life here. You totally would have just expected it to be a bland round of tennis on an empty court, but nope, everything about this is just great. Is it the most in-depth tennis video game ever made? No, but it also wasn't supposed to be. For what it is, I just have so much loving nostalgia with this game, absolute gem. Next up on our roster of sports we have baseball, and here Nintendo definitely took some more liberties in changing up the game. So now instead of 9 innings it is 3, you don't control your fielders, and half the time the Miis don't even know how to catch the ball, have at it. Yeah, so this one is definitely not bad, but it is slightly more questionable than tennis. I think my main problems with it lie with pitching. There is just not much that you can do to make it fun. This isn't really the game's fault, since I mean you can't really add too much to the pitching system with just a Wii remote, but it just kind of is boring. You can throw a fastball, a curveball, a screwball, and a splitter. Well, sometimes your pitcher will also just decide to forget how to throw a splitter and just throw a pitch right down the middle instead because shit just happens sometimes, I guess. This was a really annoying feature, no idea why they added it in. I mean, this can kinda be fun to be crafty with tricking the batter with different pitches, but this is really only the case when you are playing against someone else live in person. Against the computer, yeah, half the time it is either so stupid your tactics won't work or so overpowered that it'll just hit a home run regardless. Batting wise, this game is quite a bit of fun. It is a little bizarre how whenever you get out, the fielder just kind of makes a death stare at the camera while holding the ball. Also, if you hit a home run, all the infielders just awkwardly stand there. It is so adorable. I do think it's a fun concept for the fielders to occasionally drop the ball since it leads to some hilarious moments when playing with friends, but it happens way too often. Instead of it being an occasional thing that happens, it kind of happens a frustrating amount of times. Even with all the complaining, I still love the game. Hitting is just too much fun for me to hate it. It makes up for everything, to be honest. It is surprisingly really accurate when swinging and hitting long home runs. It's just as satisfying as one could imagine. I think as a tech demo for the Wii remote, baseball did a pretty good job. That's all that really matters. Time to go bowling, and man, this one is iconic. This, from what I remember, was what really caused the whole craze of people throwing the Wii remote into their TVs and breaking them, which to this day is crazy. I think for showing off the Wii remote's motion controls, this is probably the best game in the entire tech demo. The gameplay is very simple yet very intuitive. All you do is wind the Wii remote back and press and release B to throw the ball down the lane. You can also move your Mii left and right and tilt in order to angle your shot. There is just something so fluid about the way you bowl too, it feels amazing. Also, the bowling alley we are in is designed so well. This place is actually lively. I also love how if you throw the bowling ball backwards, the Mii will just twirl in the air. There was literally no reason for Nintendo to include that in, and it makes the game that much more iconic. As much as I would love to find little things to make fun of for the video like I did with baseball, I genuinely just can't here. This is just such a blissful and nostalgic experience. Now, if I was looking to complain, thankfully our next contestant is golf. Oh, you know how I said bowling did a great job at showing the Wii remote's motion controls? Yeah, well, all that goes out the window with golf. I don't know if it was just me being bad at using the motion controls or what, but I just cannot for the life of me figure out how to gauge how hard I'm swinging. There are so many times that I found I would swing and then get a disproportionate intensity to my swing in game as to what I was trying to do. And this was found in no better place than putting. Putting in Wii Sports genuinely aged me like 50 years. It is so frustrating. Now, is the game still fun? Somehow, yes. All that complaining just for me to still like the game, I don't know how, but I won't question it. Honestly, this is one of those classic just embrace the chaos situations. Like, yeah, golf in this game is a clunk fest, but honestly, whenever you are playing with friends, it kind of creates its own charm. While I think it would have been better if the motion controls were designed to better represent Nintendo's vision for the Wii remote, it is kind of funny when you try to putt like 5 feet and end up smacking the ball full throttle. And besides, these control issues are largely fixed on Wii Sports Resort, so if you want a normal golf simulator, then there you go. Anyway, for what it is, it's still pretty fun. We got 9 holes here, and aside from hole 9, I like all of them. Hole 9 is just a bunch of islands, and I genuinely hate this hole with every fiber of my being. We also got only 4 different clubs we can use, which I think is fine, to be honest. I think it would have been even more fine if the gauge was more consistent with what I was actually trying to accomplish with each swing, but it worked well enough to still make the game playable. And once again, this could just be me having a bad experience with the motion controls, and maybe it works great for everyone else. Finally, we got boxing, which once again, the motion controls were a clunk fest, but I thought it was a lot more manageable here. Here for boxing, in order to control both your hands, we connect a nunchuck, which honestly, this was a pretty creative way for Nintendo to show off the nunchuck as an accessory. Weirdly enough, a lot of the time I found that I needed to swing more downward in order to register punches with the Wii remote, which was really bizarre. However, it is still a really fun game to play, especially with other people. Just like how you would expect from a boxing simulator, there is such a cool gameplay component of deciding whether to throw punches or hold your hands up in order to defend. Also, I like how this one is low-key be kind of a workout. The game also works very similarly to the way it works in real life. I'll go ahead and rank all the games in Wii Sports in 2 categories just for fun, these being based on how good the motion controls worked and based on how fun they were. For motion controls, I would say at the bottom is golf, then boxing, then baseball, tennis, and finally bowling was the best. And based on how much I personally enjoy playing the sports, it would go baseball in last, golf, boxing, tennis, and bowling on top. To be honest, in the fun category, there really wasn't that much separating them. They all had their charm and fun to them. And finally, it is time to get into our selection of minigames, which just like in Wii Play, we got bronze, silver, gold, and platinum medals we can get for each one. Although we aren't going to be going for that in this particular video, maybe I will revisit those platinum medals in a future video because I am sure I can piss myself off going for that. There are 3 different minigames for each sport, making it 15 total, so with that, let's go ahead and quickly run through these. First up is returning balls. As the name suggests, we need to return as many of the tennis balls within the court as we can in a row. As the minigame progresses, Alyssa hits the balls at us faster and faster until it gets to the point where I don't even think Spider-Man would be able to properly react to it quick enough. Also, your Mii will go back and forth between being by the net and being at the back of the court. This one was kind of addicting, trying to adjust to the rapid fire pace of it. I like it quite a bit. Then we get to timing or swing, where there was a moving target that gets smaller as the minigame progresses. The goal is to hit as many balls within the target as we can, and while it is still fun, I definitely preferred returning balls a little bit more. And finally, for tennis, we got target practice. Oh man, this one was stressful. It was stressful back in the day when I was like 10, and it is no different now. Basically, there is a wall with a target on it, and the target moves every time you hit it. Also, every time you hit the wall, it will slowly disintegrate based on where you hit the wall, so it will keep getting darker until it just breaks apart. So the goal of the game is to hit the target as many times as you can before you hit your ball either through the wall or you fail to return it. Although this game makes my skin crawl, I still love playing it, and it definitely helps you get better at the game. For our baseball minigames, we have our home run derby mode first. We get 10 pitches that are all fastballs down the middle, and we need to hit as many home runs as we can. I love how the distance of the home runs is also added up at the end. This is definitely one of my personal favorite minigames in all of Wii Sports. There's something so satisfying about seeing how much distance you can gather from all 10 of your home runs here. Swing control has us practicing timing our swings with these blue lines. The more in the center it is, the more points you get. Every few pitches it also moves over to the left and right. This one is fun. In batting practice, we need to just get as many base hits as we can, and somehow the first try I got all 30 as base hits, which has never happened before. This is definitely going on my resume forever. For bowling, first up we got the game picking up spares. Just as the name suggests, it pits us against different formations of pins one by one, and your job is to not miss. You have 5 chances before you game over, so this is a pretty relaxing one. Then maybe the most iconic minigame in all of Wii Sports, we got the 100 pin game. Technically it's called power throws, but I don't know, I just feel like 100 pin game sounds better. We go 10 times, and each time we bowl, more and more pins appear until eventually it fills up the entire lane. This alongside hitting home runs are my personal favorites. It is so fun, especially when playing with other people. And then finally we have spin control, where it is like picking up spares, but now there are little walls that we have to work around. This one is good for practicing angling your shots and everything if you are into that. I've been mostly positive about these minigames, but hold up because golf is up next. Cover your ears, kids. Here we can practice putting, and I genuinely hated every second putting in this game. And unfortunately, hitting the green isn't a whole lot better. Here we are just chipping the ball onto the green from a progressively further distance away each shot, and while it works, it is so mind-numbingly boring. Thankfully, target practice kind of redeems golf, but it still isn't that fun. Here we are just using our driver to whack the ball super far onto the target. The only reason I kind of like this one is the changing wind speed, but it definitely isn't one of my personal favorites. If I am in the mood to play golf on the Wii, I'm just gonna pop in Wii Sports Resort. It's so annoying here. Finally, it does end on a high note for the minigames with boxing. Working the bag lets you get a handle on controlling your types of punches, and it is actually super satisfying just punching this bag all over the place. Then the man, the myth, the legend himself, Matt, throws some balls for us to avoid, and this one is really fun, but I suck ass at it. And finally, with throwing punches, we work on our reaction speed in regards to punching, with having to quickly hit Matt either on the left or right side. Once again, I was awful at this one one too, but I still find it fun and I can totally see myself actually learning how to get better at versus golf. And one last feature that is in Wii Sports is the Wii Fitness mode, where it gives you 3 random minigames to play and then it guesses what your age is based on these results. Accuracy is certainly something to be discussed with this, as I genuinely don't know if the game has ever been within 5 years of my actual age. Anyway, that all is the gist of Wii Sports, and there is a good chance that this isn't even new information to you. This is currently the 4th best-selling video game of all time with a whopping 82.9 million units sold, which, I mean, yeah, it's a tech demo that was bundled with a Wii, but that's still an insane figure. I vividly remember going to my friend's house and their grandmother playing on this thing. It was everywhere. Is it the greatest and most well-designed video game of all time with sales like that? I mean, the game works well enough and definitely hooked a lot of consumers on the whole thing that was motion controls, but considering its follow-up did essentially everything it set out to do but even better, I don't find myself ever returning to the OG Wii Sports as much. I'll talk about Wii Sports Resort in depth in the future, but all of the charm and magic of Wii Sports is there and then some, and it's more well designed, and there's more games to play. This is not me taking shots at Wii Sports. Yeah, it isn't perfect, but I find it hard to argue that it is one of the most important video games of all time. It is important for curating the more casual audience Nintendo had and went after for a whole decade after its release. It inspired other companies like Microsoft and Sony to have their own little ventures with motion controls, and it was vital in pushing the Wii to as much success as it had. For a game as simple as it is, there is just something so adorable about it that does make it fun to play from time to time even today. I have full respect for both what this game set out to do and what it accomplished. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and as always, peace out.